I now reconvene the regular council meeting of Monday, July 27th, 2026. We'd like to acknowledge that this council meeting is being held on the homeland of the Tanaka people. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda of the regular council meeting of Monday, July 27th, 2026? Councillor Popoff, Councillor Bissett. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Can I get a motion to adopt the following minutes of the committee of the whole meeting of Monday, July 6, 2026? Minutes of the regular council meeting of Monday, July 13th, 2026. Mover, please. Councillor Graham, Councillor Stetsky. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. I'll now recess the regular council meeting to begin our public hearing for tonight. Public hearing is being convened pursuant to Section 465 of the Local Government Act to consider the following bylaws. City of Cranbrook Official Community Plan, our Path to Cranbrook 2042 Amendment Bylaw number 4257/2026. At this public hearing is being held in person and electronically, with the residents and interested parties being given the opportunity to express their views. This meeting is being broadcast live from the city's website, and there is a link on the homepage that will take you directly to the meeting. At this public hearing, any person who believes that their interest in property is affected by the proposed bylaw will be given an opportunity to be heard. No one will be or should feel discouraged or prevented from making their views known. However, it is important that all who speak at this meeting restrict their remarks to matters contained in the bylaw, and it is my responsibility as chair of this meeting to ensure that all remarks are so restricted. Members of council may ask questions following your submission. However, the main function of council members this evening is to listen to the views of the public and not debate the merits of the proposed bylaw with individual citizens. Those of you who wish to speak concerning the bylaw should, at the appropriate time, begin by clearly stating your name and address, and then give us the full view of your benefits of your views. You will be given 5 minutes for your submission. I will call for submissions 3 times for each bylaw. Once the public hearing is closed, members of council cannot take any further input regarding the proposed bylaw, and will then deal with the bylaw during the regular meeting of council held after the public hearing. The bylaw for consideration tonight is City of Cranbrook Official Community Plan, our Path to 2042 Amendment Bylaw number 4257/2026. The bylaw proposes the following. Number 1, update development permit exemption language in the multiple unit residential Baker Hill neighborhood commercial, downtown commercial, highway commercial, industrial, airport lands, steep slopes, riparian, and foreshore development permits areas. Minor wording change in the designations of applicable areas paragraph in the multiple unit residential clarify that projects of 5 or more units are subject to a development permit. Next, clarify exemptions in the neighborhood and highway commercial DP areas for exterior changes to a building or structure. Deleting the exemptions that permits the construction of building additions up to 100 meters squared from all DP areas were listed. Adding signs to permissible exemptions from requiring DP in form and character DP areas. In the industrial DP areas, an exemption has been clarified to exempt accessory buildings which do not require services and which are a maximum of 25 meters squared. This will reduce the number, this will reduce the need for permits for smaller unserviced structures, such as guidelines are geared to larger industrial buildings. Next up, in steep slope DP areas, deleting subdivisions as a permissible exemption. In the riparian and foreshore DP area, clarify the exemption for where a watercourse doesn't exist, and for the construction of an attached deck to specify the exemption applies if the deck is not within 15 meters of the watercourse. In wildfire DP area, add an exemption to allow rebuilding of an accessory building or structure if within the same footprint. Number 2, update the aquifer protection DP area, applicable activities section, clarifying that only activities that facilitate Schedule 2 uses as identified in the Ministry of Environment Contaminated Site Regulations are subject to the to the requiring a development permit and adding the corresponding exemption language. And thirdly, update the highway commercial development area the commercial development permit area map to include properties that were omitted when the OCP was developed and adopted. I will call on any members of the public who are in the chamber tonight to speak first. If you wish to provide comments, please come up to the podium, provide your name and address before giving us your comments. Nobody from the gallery tonight?
Oh, no, not yet. And there's no online folks, and there's no registered speakers as well,
Okay.
Mayor Price.
Yeah, I was gonna just comment, if you're on the phone line waiting to speak, callers will be identified by the last two digits in their phone number. Or if you have pre-registered, we will call you by name. Please make sure you know which number you are calling from and listen for it to be called. When it is your turn to speak, you will be allowed to unmute yourself by pressing *6, and you will have your opportunity to provide us with your views. If you have not pre-registered and wish to speak, please press *3 on your phone to signal staff you wish to address council. I would now call a second time for submissions. And I will now call a third and final time for submissions. Hearing no further comments, I now close the public hearing for the proposed City of Cranbrook Official Community Plan, or Path to Cranbrook 2042 Amendment Bylaw number 4257 2026. Thank you very much. I now reconvene the regular council meeting of Monday, July 27th, 2026. We'll now move into delegations. We have one delegation here this evening. The Cranbrook Kimberley Hospice Society is here tonight to give a presentation regarding the request from the Society for land donation in Baker Park. Greg Sternick, George Watson, Don Pialini, Greg Andreas, Mike Kosniak, Jim Ferrantino, and Al Coates are all here on behalf of the Cranbrook Kimberley Hospice Society. Gentlemen, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Greg Sternick. I'm from Cranbrook, BC, and I'm on the board for the Cranbrook Kimberley Hospice Society. We're here today to formally request land for a new hospice house. This hospice house will serve families across Cranbrook, Kimberley, and the East Kootenays. I've got a short slideshow I'd like to go over with in front of the council and public. Can you start that up? There we go, the final journey. So currently, stop advancing. There we go. Currently, the Cranbrook Hospital's overloaded with hospice patients that could be served better elsewhere. And to free up those beds in the Cranbrook Hospital for acute care beds and patients that need surgery, et cetera, et cetera. So this would satisfy two critical needs. Citizens of the East Kootenays deserve a better opportunity, just like people in the Lower Mainland and the Okanagan, and they don't have that benefit of having a hospice house in Cranbrook and the East Kootenays. So this is a picture of what we would like to have for Cranbrook. We call it the Baker Park Regional Hospice House, but let me make it perfectly clear. We're asking for land on the Old City RV site, which is just above the creek in the lower section of the RV site of Baker Park. So Baker Park would not change. It would actually just replace those old buildings that look like they're about to fall down. We want to replace those buildings with this beautiful new hospice home. So we did a bit of a study. This is the Cowichan Hospice House, and We sent a group there to just look to see how it was built, how it's run, how it's maintained. And of course, as you wanted to show council what it would look like, there's, beautiful area where people can use the kitchen, area for family and friends to meet, make plans, a place for the kids to play while the parents are meeting. We've got a industrial kitchen, laundry facilities, wide hallways for the beds and everything to be moved back and forth. Again, some of the equipment that's in the building. Basically some nice quiet areas again for families to relax and discuss times for family members, in their last days. And there's a couple more pictures of the bedroom and bathroom facilities. Again, it's very therapeutic for families. This picture right here is actually what we would like for the surrounding area of the hospice house. So the Sunrise Rotary in Cranbrook has, basically said they're going to build and maintain a beautiful garden surrounding the hospice house. So that's an idea of what it might look like. So just really, a lot of dignity for the people that are there. A room that actually shows, all the special thanks to the fundraisers, that sort of thing. And, with your support, council, we believe that we could build something great. This is it's close to regional healthcare. Physicians, nurses, practitioners, support staff all have really easy access to the building. Location matters. The dignity of the experience matters. Ability to access matters. And this piece of land is actually really accessible. Simply turn off 14th Avenue onto First Street and you're into the driveway. The engineers that plotted the site for us said it was a natural fit. Families can enjoy this garden, and have it, the beautiful setting overlooking Baker Park. So again, it's not replacing Baker Park. Baker Park's going to stay. This will just replace the buildings that are currently there that aren't so desirable. I think with your support, we can build this facility to beautify downtown. We've got a regional hospital. We've got a college. This is just another great element to add to this fantastic city. We've got money raised. We've got an all-star committee with people that have backgrounds in law and accounting, construction, businessmen, professionals in marketing and fundraising. All these people that are part of our committee are pillars of the community. They're hugely successful, and they stand behind this project 100%. And I'm hoping that we get the vote from council to do the same. So next, I'd like to call up George Watson. He's chairman of the board for the Cranbrook Kimberley Hospice Society. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. My name is George Watson. I'm a resident at 53-1401 Willowbrook Drive in Cranbrook. So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, staff, and members of the public. On Monday, June the 8th, the Cranbrook Kimberley Hospice Society met with City Council and requested that land at Baker Park be made available for us to build a 10-bed regional hospice house, a much-needed facility to serve the East Kootenays in providing a home-like setting with private rooms, common areas designed to feel warm, peaceful, and dignified. Specially trained staff and volunteers will be providing 24-hour comfort care, pain and symptom management, and emotional and spiritual support for people with advanced, life-limiting illnesses and their families. We believe that our June 8th presentation was well received, and we were encouraged to make a public presentation to council before council would make a decision on our request. We have provided council with the information they required on June the 8th. By way of background to the public, there are no dedicated palliative care rooms east of the Okanagan Valley. Let me repeat that. There are no dedicated palliative care rooms east of the Okanagan. The Cranbrook Regional Hospital has 2 designated palliative rooms, but these are not dedicated. Palliative patients often do not have access to them. Some patients are actually moved out of them. For those patients and their families, the end-of-life journey comes to a close in acute care beds elsewhere in the hospital. The Pines in Kimberley has one designated room, but no dedicated rooms. Yet there are 4 standalone hospice houses in the Okanagan: Penticton, Kelowna, Vernon, and Kamloops. There are none in the Kootenays. The closest hospice house for us in British Columbia is the Moog and Friends Hospice House in Penticton, a 506-kilometer drive from here. Why should the residents of the East Kootenays be denied the same end-of-life services that the residents of the Okanagan have? The Cranbrook Kimberley Hospice Society has been committed to building a 10-bed hospice house for the past 2 years. Location is critical for us. We have looked at and been offered several properties in the area, and we have done our due diligence on each of the opportunities. We tried to be included in the Green Home expansion. We do not want to accept a parcel of land only to regret that location down the road. We believe that the single most important factor in determining the overall total success of our regional hospice house continues to be location, location, location. It must be easily accessible to all the East Kootenay residents. If you're coming from Creston, Wausau, Kimberley, Cranbrook, Jaffrey, Fernie, Golden, Invermere, or the Elk Valley, it must be easy to get to. It must be a serviceable location free of any potential issues. Ideally, it should have access to nature and gardens that promote healing and reduce stress for patients and families. It should be situated close enough to main roads, public transit paths, and local amenities so family and friends can visit easily. It should be close to health services to allow for quick transfer of specialized staff, lab work, or emergency backup. The site that ticks off all the boxes for the Cranbrook Kimberley Hospice Society is the area at Baker Park, where the RV park currently exists. What would it mean for the city? A portion of the current RV park would be turned into a beautiful bungalow-type facility that fits into the natural surroundings of the location. Thanks to the Cranbrook Sunrise Rotary Club, the facility will include a beautiful garden area for patients and their families to enjoy. A facility that serves the East Kootenays would be in the center of the key city. The city will be able to point to the East Kootenay Regional Hospice House as a positive amenity for folks moving to the area. We're asking that the Cranbrook City Council grant the Cranbrook Kimberley Hospice Society the piece of land we have requested at Baker Park so we can begin to move forward with funding initiatives and make the East Kootenay Regional Hospice a reality.
Thank you, George.
Next up to speak is Dr. Greg Andreas.
Another Greg. I live on Wycliffe Park Road, and I'm a physician. I've been in Cranbrook now 20 years plus, and this is something that's really close to my heart. I've been in homes in just about every street in Cranbrook, trying to do the near impossible often. And we can't. It's not possible to do what life needs in the last chapters, to do dignity in places where people are tired and exhausted, where you could see what the other Greg showed us. We can have that. We can have that. It's not going to be easy. And I want to thank you. It's not easy to make decisions about such big assets. And I wanted to really thank you for stepping up to doing this work, because this is something that we've already said is going to be a pillar, a mark in the sand of we didn't have it on that day. But now we can. We can change the way we work from crowded third floor spaces, hallways and stuff like that, from in between people's stuff in their homes, to actually live and give the last chapter to live with dignity. I come from Africa, and the saying apparently comes from Africa that says, it takes a village to raise a child. And I think what we've learned from what we've seen from Cowichan and pretty well all over Canada and the rest of the world, and we want to bring that concept to the southeast corner of British Columbia, of actually having something that says it takes a village to say goodbye. It takes a village to say goodbye. And I want to ask that you take the really difficult choice that you have in front of you now to say, you know what? The birth pains of raising a child or bringing a child into the world is hard. This is where we're at with this home at the moment. We need the full village on board so we can build relationships. When I speak to my colleagues about we are trying to do this at the moment in our town, they are all saying, wow, wouldn't it be nice if we had that next year? And I'll say, wait a bit. This is going to be a process of building relationships, and we haven't got this first step done yet. We can do it, but we have to build relationships that actually say, what does a village look like when we embrace something that isn't there now, but our numbers say we need it desperately? What our steering committee hasn't shared with you tonight, and I suspect in the council as well, is that people are hurting. Many of us are doing this work because we realize things aren't right. They weren't right. Sometimes we pull off a miracle. We want that miracle now to be magnified because we're doing the right thing with people aligning values, aligning with what was, with what is now, and then looking at that future state that actually says, there's that building where when my time comes, and death isn't a rare disease, it's there for all of us. How do we move through the places that actually says, we as a village, as a city of Cranbrook in the southeast corner of British Columbia, are going to change something starting very soon and moving steadily through all the relationships that it's going to take to do that. I don't know how we're going to do that. The difficulty and the decision is here tonight, but I believe it's going to be a powerful way of us actually saying change needs those difficult decisions to start something new. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Andreas.
Thanks, Greg. Our last speaker is Al Coates. He was a general manager for some NHL teams, but just as importantly, he was the founder of Calgary Flames Sports Equipment, who's basically merged with the kids sport. So Al's lived in Kimberley for the last 26 years, and he's an expert in marketing. And we got him on our steering committee about 2 years ago. And I'd like to call him up to say a couple of words. Thank you.
More than a couple. Thank you, Greg, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. He's trying to make me old, is really what he's trying to do by reciting some of the things that I've done and continue to do. You may or may not know that my father-in-law, the late Jim Kennelly, was a long-time council member here. He loved this city to bits. I had the good fortune 38 years ago this month to marry Jim and Delphine's oldest daughter, Jane. With 38 years in the bank, I think we may have a chance to make it. So we never know. Anyways, in my 50 plus years in professional sports management on both sides of the border and even in Europe, I've been involved with a lot of cities and a lot of municipalities, had a lot of dialect back and forth with councils and et cetera, et cetera. And I would say some of that has been really, really positive, and some has been average, and some maybe has not been so good. There's some common denominators, obviously, between people who are great and look at their city and they want their city to be greater than it currently is. They're very positive thinking people, progressive thinking. At the other end of the scale, and I'm certainly not talking about this municipality, there are those that think that status quo is just okay. We don't need to do anything to be better than we are. Basically, it's just being lazy and not trying to make a difference. A case in point for me, like I got tons of examples here, but I'm not going to bore you with them, was we're going to move our farm team, Calgary Flames farm team, from Salt Lake City, which I actually really liked, Salt Lake City, back into Canada, primarily for economic reasons, as you can imagine. Today, we're calling that a tariff. But at that particular time, it was just the dollar was in the tank, and we had to make a better economic decision for our business. So we targeted a place called St. John, New Brunswick, in the Maritimes, obviously. A perfect location with a building to be built that was the perfect size for an American Hockey League team. Very avid, rabid hockey fans there. And I had the deal all done, and one slight problem it came up to rise, and that was certain members of the council actually thought that it would be better served to be out of the city, on a bigger piece of property, et cetera, than in the city. Fortunately for everybody, the then mayor, the late great Elsie Wayne, we became very close friends. She put her foot down and said, "This is not happening under my watch." And she solicited a few people, myself included, to help her. And the ultimate result of that was the building went where it should be, and it is the heart of St. John, New Brunswick. And as a result of that, we're now 30 years in, 2 major hotels, umpteen restaurants, bars, and shopping, et cetera, and it is clearly the hub of the city. So my point in that is right decision made, and the benefit of that city and that community is reaped for now 30 years and will continue to do so. Likewise, I don't know who all are hockey fans in here. You can either like or dislike Daryl Cates in Edmonton and the Edmonton Oilers. I've been on the other side of that for about 40 years, but anyways. But again, Daryl Cates put his money where his mouth is, and they built the new Rogers Arena in Edmonton in the right place for the right reasons. They made the right decision as part of a revitalization of downtown Edmonton. Had they moved that building out, I don't know what would have happened to downtown Edmonton. And it's still, to be totally candid and honest, it's a work in progress. Likewise in Calgary, with the new building that's under construction now that will open a year from this fall for the Calgary Flames, located in the hub of Calgary on city land, Stampede next door. The new building is about Greg's 9 iron away from the current building, the Saddle Dome. So once again, it is the hub of the city of Calgary, and another right decision has been made. Greg mentioned Kidsport. I've been involved in a lot of different things. I was on the board of Kidsport Calgary for about a dozen years. In 2014, I had some help from Bill Comrie. You might know Bill Comrie, founder of The Brick. We decided to, with his money and my ambition, start a sports equipment bank in Calgary for underprivileged kids, low-income families, and collectively we made that work. And in 2019, we elected, Bill was then gone from this, I elected with the board to merge Kidsport and the Calgary Flame Sports Equipment Bank into one, under one roof. And we service now thousands of kids and families, low-income families on an annual basis. So once again, an example of, I think we made a right decision. And there's tons and tons of examples like this all over the place, whether it's in the United States or Canada, in Europe, or whatever that lots of us have been involved with at one point or another. My point in saying all this and trying to bring these examples forward is that great cities define themselves by continuing to look for elements that make them that much better. They're already great, or they're good. They're at least good, and they want to be great. And to be greater, they want to be a cut above others. It's a calling card, so to speak, to make them that much greater so that you can say, come here to Cranbrook, look what we have to offer. And by the way, spend your money while you're here. We think as a steering committee, and by the way, I'm really proud to be part of this group. This is a really dedicated, terrific group of people that are in this for one reason only, and that is to make a difference here with your help. But we think City Council has an opportunity to clearly make a difference for Cranbrook and the region, satisfying a couple of critical needs by making the right decision, just like I talked about the other decisions, making the right decision, defining Cranbrook as a centerpiece of the region, elevating who you are and what you stand for, a lasting legacy by this community for generations to come. Baker Park Hospice, as it's been outlined by Greg and George, is the right decision for this community. So we thank you as a steering committee for hearing us and hearing our request this evening so that we can get on with what we need to do to build this and service the greater region as the hub, with the hub being the great city of Cranbrook. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Al. That concludes your, okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the presentation, great presentation. We'll be dealing with this matter for later in tonight's meeting. Next, questions, Council? Yes, we have a question from Council Ray, okay?
Okay, thank you very
Apologies.
much, Mayor. Whoever would like to answer this, maybe Greg number one, I don't know. Anyways, so you mentioned in your application for your delegation, 10-bed hospice house, and that the facility will also have units for out-of-town doctors and nurses to stay while working in Cranbrook. So how many would that be in addition to the 10 units, or if you can just briefly fill us in on what that would look like?
Yes, that would be in addition to the 10 hospice beds.
Okay.
So there's, many doctors and nurses, other practitioners that come to Cranbrook and they're having to stay in a Airbnb or something for about $4,000 a night, or a month rather. And, we think they would be well served by staying on site at the hospice house. It's, that location is a couple blocks from the hospital within walking distance. And again, they would be on site. So probably, 2 to 4 rooms is kind of what we're looking at.
Great. And then just as a follow-up, how many floors are you looking at for the facility? Is it 1 floor or 2 floors?
We'd like to have it on 1 floor, possibly with these extra rooms either on the side or above, but it would be on 1 level, and each of the rooms would actually have their own access. So, friends and families could come and visit the patients and have their private access to those rooms without having to go through the hospital, up the elevator, 3rd floor, that sort of thing.
Okay.
So,
and then just one final question, if I may. So your delegation information, of course, focuses on the hospice house, but then there's also mention of a Joanna's House type project through the East Kootenai Foundation for Health. So I just wanted to clarify, just to make sure we're all on the same page. So the Cranbrook Kimberley Hospice Society, it's within your scope as a nonprofit board, that your ask is just specific to the hospice house.
Correct.
Right. And so the Joanna's House discussion, that would be under the purview of the East Kootenai Foundation for Health, and their board would need to come forward with a specific request regarding that project.
Correct. That was just a request or an idea when council was asking other uses of the property, what might be kind of above our hospice house. That was an idea that we presented that we thought, hey, this would actually fit in. It could be that a developer comes in and builds a senior center just above the hospice house as well. But I believe that, this is actually going to beautify the area, knock down those existing buildings that aren't so attractive, put up a beautiful hospice house. And I think other investors, developers would probably come in and do something when they see this facility there. We've raised a bunch of money already. We've got lots kind of, in the, in the trend, a lot of donors that are ready to go. We just need the location. And
Thank
I think once we're set with that, we are going to be full speed ahead.
Councillor Stetsky.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for your presentation. Very powerful points, and really appreciate the passion that you have for the project. And it is something that Cranbrook really needs. I do have a question about operational funding, because municipalities sometimes have a problem with getting grant money and building something, and then operationally it becomes an issue over time. So once the hospice is in place, where does the funding come from to keep it operational?
Well, we're committed to raise enough money to operate the facility for at least 3 years. We've got an outstanding committee, so I've got no doubts that they can do it, that we can raise a ton of money. We are going to need some support with Interior Health, but many of the other hospice houses in the city or in the other cities, Penticton, Prince George, they do a lot of private fundraisings. They've got houses that they build and auction off every year, that sort of thing. Prince George has done a fabulous job. So we've done, some due diligence, looked at what they've done, and we've got a number of ideas actually to raise money to, to build this thing and to keep it running for several years.
Further, council? Thanks very much, Greg.
Thank you.
Moving into bylaws. First bylaw for consideration tonight is from Bylaw Enforcement Services regarding unsightly premises amendment bylaw number 4251, 2026. This bylaw is back tonight before council for adoption. Can I get a motion that council adopt unsightly premises amendment bylaw number 4251, 2026? Mover, please, Councillor Ray, Councillor Bassett. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Next bylaw is from Engineering Development Services regarding Municipal Ticketing Information System Amendment Bylaw number 4252, 2026. This bylaw is back before council tonight for adoption as well. Can I get a motion that council adopt Municipal Ticketing Information System Amendment Bylaw number 4252, 2026? Mover, please, Councillor Blissett, Councillor Stetsky. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Next bylaw tonight is from Bylaw Enforcement regarding Bylaw Notice Enforcement Amendment Bylaw number 4254, 2026. And this is back tonight for adoption as well. Can I get a motion that council adopt Bylaw Notice Enforcement Amendment of Bylaw number 4254, 2026? Councillor Popoff, Councillor Graham. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Next bylaws for consideration are from Engineering Development Services regarding Official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw number 4255, 2026, and Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 4256, 2026, for property located at 128 4th Avenue South. The OCP Amendment Bylaw is back before council tonight for second reading, while the Zoning Amendment Bylaw is before council for first and second reading. Can I please have staff give us a brief overview of the report, please? Welcome,
you.
Connor.
Thank you. Thanks, Mayor, and thank you, Council. Very briefly, this is an application to change the OCP and land use designation, as Mayor Price pointed out, and the subsequent rezoning for 128 4th Avenue South, which is just outside of the downtown core area, not within the development permit area, just outside and just adjacent to the highway, about 25 meters off the highway. This would be looking to change from the highway commercial to the residential land use designation, as well as the rezoning from highway commercial C2 to R1 residential. This proposed change would legalize a non-conforming residential use of a single detached residential dwelling that's located on one of the parcels. The lot is split into two separate parcels known as Lot 4 and Lot 5. The second parcel would then be opened up to potential for residential development, which they have provided a proposal for a duplex dwelling unit on Lot 5 of the parcel. So very simply put, that's what is being considered here, as well as looking for direction to refer this to the Advisory Planning Commission for recommendation before we bring it back to council, as well as submitting to a public hearing for September 21st, 2026.
Thanks very much, Connor. Can I get a motion that council give a second reading to City of Cranbrook Official Community Plan, our Path to 2042 Amendment Bylaw number 4255, 2026. Mover, please. Councillor Stetsky. Councillor Bassett. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Can I get a motion that council give first reading to City of Cranbrook Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 4256, 2026. Mover, please. Councillor Ray, Councillor Popoff. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. And finally, can I get a motion that council give second reading to City of Cranbrook Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 4256, 2026. Refer the bylaw to the Advisory Planning Commission for recommendation and submit to a public hearing to be scheduled for 6:00 p.m. on September 21, 2026. Mover, please. Councillor Graham, Councillor Blissett. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Next up is from Engineering Bylaw Services regarding official community plan amendment bylaw number 4257, 2026 for several housekeeping amendments. The bylaw is back before council for third reading and adoption. Can I get a motion that, subject to council's consideration for public input, received up to and including the public hearing of July 27th, 2026, council give third reading to the City of Cranbrook Official Community Plan, our Path to Cranbrook 2042 Amendment Bylaw number 4257, 2026. Councillor Stetsky, Councillor Bassett. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Can I get a motion that council adopt City of Cranbrook Official Community Plan, our Path to Cranbrook 2042 Amendment Bylaw number 4257, 2026. Mover, please. Councillor Popoff, Councillor Ray. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Next bylaw is from Engineering Development Services regarding zoning amendment bylaw number 4258, 2026 at 508 16th Avenue South. This bylaw is before council tonight for first and second reading. Can I please have staff give us a bit of a review of this report, please? We have Rob on hand.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This application was received by the manager of the estate for the property. As they were dealing with the estate, they came to realize that the property was zoned C1 for some odd reason. He thinks there might be a reason why, he knows, but we couldn't figure it out either. And so in order to try and help sell the property, of course, being a non-conforming commercial zoning, it makes it much more difficult, requires different financing provisions. So in essence, this is basically just taking a house, rezoning it from C1, which is the downtown commercial zone, to R1 for house. It's already designated as the infill residential in the OCP, but unfortunately, this property doesn't, or this amendment doesn't qualify for the prohibition on holding a public hearing. That's more directed to residential developments. There is a provision in the Local Government Act that allows a council to opt to not hold a public hearing, but looking at the requirements and seeking some free legal advice on that one, it turns out that council has to specifically provide a resolution to not hold a public hearing, and then we have to send out notice before first reading. So it actually didn't save the process. So if you're wondering why we'd be looking to go into public hearing, that's why. So we'll tie this public hearing date in with the amendment that we just spoke to. So from staff perspective, there was no concern with the request of the variance, or sorry, the zoning.
Thank you, Rob. Can I get a motion that council give first reading to City of Cranbrook zoning amendment bylaw number 4258/2026? Councillor Lissette, Councillor Stetsky, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Can I get a motion that council give second reading to City of Cranbrook zoning amendment bylaw number 4258/2026? Refer to the Advisory Planning Commission for recommendations. Schedule a public hearing for 6 p.m. on September 21st, 2026. Mover, Councillor Popoff, Councillor Ray. Discussion. Oh, Councillor Graham.
Yeah, thank you. Just a quick question. I'm not sure if time is of the essence, but if we do have a special council meeting probably happening, would we want to maybe move the public hearing up for this to that date for these, or is it not a big issue on time frame for this?
Through the mayor to Councillor Graham, certainly I think the applicant would like that, but unfortunately, because we don't have a set date yet and council needs to set a date for a public hearing, that wasn't something we were able to do unless we had a definitive date for another council meeting. That's because we're scheduling the council meeting tonight, and that would be what would be advertised for the public hearing date. That makes it a bit difficult. So yeah, we did think about that, but unfortunately we didn't have a confirmed date yet that I was aware of to be able to move it up a little bit.
Thanks for that clarification, Rob. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Excuse me. Moving into new business. First item is from Corporate Services regarding the Transit Future Services Plan. We have staff here to give us an overview of that. Tina.
Yeah, this report is for council to approve the final transit future service plan for both conventional custom services and direct staff to start implementing the changes. In 2023, BC Transit started the development of the new plan. Throughout the process, it became clear that a complete system redesign would be the best outcome for the Cranbrook system. The redesign maintained the current number of service hours and buses that are in place now. We have BC Transit online with us, and they'll go over a brief overview of what the items in the plan are.
Good evening. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you loud
Yes,
and clear,
okay.
and we can see you as well.
Great. I'm Danica White. I'm the Government Relations Manager with BC Transit, and I'm here with a couple of my colleagues. We have Jen Getz, she's the Transit Planner, also Kevin Sturgeon, the Manager of Service Planning, and there's also Aaron Toop joining virtually as well from Toop Consulting, who we work closely with throughout the development of this plan. And if you recall, at the July 6th Committee of the Whole meeting, we presented the draft Transit Future Service Plan. As a result of that meeting, some comments and questions from that meeting, some very minor amendments were made, and we have returned tonight with the recommendation to adopt and implement the plan. And I'll turn it over to Jen now, who will give you a review of the strategic plan for you as a bit of a refresher, and the full plan is in your agenda package. I'll turn it over to you, Jen.
Thank you very much, Danica. Can everyone see the presentation that I'm attempting to share?
Yeah, we can see that. Thank you.
Wonderful. Great. I'm going to pull up my screen here as well. Great. Thank you very much for having me. I had the privilege of presenting to you Cranbrook's Transit Future Service Plan. I'll be referring to the plan as the TFSP. And today, Council will have the opportunity to approve the custom and conventional TFSPs and to direct administration to work with BC Transit to implement the conventional transit TFSP's service hour neutral network redesign. This presentation is a simplified version of the full TFSP. First, we'd like to acknowledge with respect that BC Transit carries out its work on the traditional territories of Indigenous nations throughout BC. in Cranbrook, BC, is located within the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Ktunaxa Nation. We are grateful to live, work, and play on their traditional lands. Today, I'll talk about what the goals are or the vision for transit in Cranbrook and what the existing system looks like and how it's performing. I'll discuss the engagement that was undertaken and then get to the exciting part, which is the proposed transit redesign. And I'll finish up with what we would need to do before implementation. Cranbrook's transit vision is that transit delivers simple, reliable, and scalable service that strengthens connectivity, reduces the need for transfers, and supports sustainable ridership growth ahead of expanded service hours. In a nutshell, the role of the TFSP is to build on existing planning and add service and infrastructure priorities, and to guide decision-making to implement the desired transit network. Conventional service currently provides fixed scheduled routes within the city 7 days a week, connecting residential neighborhoods with various destinations. The network is structured as a hub and spoke pulse system, with the routes converging at the downtown exchange to facilitate transfers. And routes generally operate at hourly frequencies weekdays with reduced service weekends. So this design enables broad geographic coverage within available resources, but results in transfer-dependent travel patterns and limited frequency for many trips, particularly those cross-town trips. The main drivers of ridership are the Downtown Exchange, followed by the College of the Rockies, Walmart and Superstore area, and Tamarack Mall. So this graph shows total boardings per year by route for 2024-25. Route 1 consistently records the highest ridership, reflecting its role in providing both local residential coverage and key connections, including to the Downtown Exchange. Route 5 College has the second highest annual boardings, and that indicates to us that after employment and commercial purposes, post-secondary education is a primary driver of transit demand. This graph shows daily ridership by season and service day. So as you can see, weekday service carries significantly more passengers than weekends, and higher demand is observed during winter and lower demand is observed in summer. From our engagement, our key takeaways from phase 1 were to connect routes to more destinations to reduce transfers, focus on where the demand is, explore on-demand service, and optimize using service hours and fleet before expanding. From phase 2, our key takeaways were that walking distance, travel time, and service frequency must be valued in transit planning work and decision-making. And many participants recognized the potential of on-demand to expand coverage and provider flexibility, while others were a little more hesitant and wanted to really experience it before they could provide informed feedback. Based on the engagement findings and ridership data, we have proposed a future network that aims to focus on serving key destinations, maintain service coverage through on-demand, reduce transfers, simplify routes for easier scalability, and use existing service hours and fleet to gradually grow ridership prior to expanding service hours and fleet. So the proposed Route A, our main line, would connect high ridership residential areas of Southwest Cranbrook with the most major destinations. Many trip possibilities would be available without a transfer, and it would be about 25 minutes for a full one-way trip. The bus would arrive at each stop about every 30 minutes at busier times and about 60 minutes at less busy times. The proposed Route B Southeast route would connect residential areas of Southeast Cranbrook with major destinations. About 25 minutes would be the full one-way trip, and the bus would arrive at each stop about every 50 minutes. Note that this route wouldn't run during less busy times, but when the route is not running, these areas would remain served by on-demand. The proposed on-demand service is where riders would request trips when needed by app or by phone. The system would group passengers traveling in the same direction and create efficient routes in real time. So there would be no fixed routes, no schedules. And when regular transit is available, the app would suggest the most convenient option. And service would operate during the same hours as the existing system, and it would be the same fare as the fixed routes. In terms of proposed service priorities into the future, we could look at increasing the span or frequency on routes A or B, as well as increasing or improving on demand by adding more service hours and fleet. We'd also recommend on-time performance and overcrowding improvements on a roughly annual basis going forward, and exploring regional connections between Kimberley and Cranbrook to the airport and Ackam community. Engagement did suggest that after Cranbrook's local transit routes are updated, people would prefer to expand transit to the airport than to see investments in the local service. Cranbrook's regional transportation study in 2024 actually provided the same option that's outlined here for 5 round trips, 6 days a week, with a new dedicated route connecting Cranbrook, Ackam, the airport, and Kimberley. And there are opportunities for regional collaboration and cost sharing on this service, but more work would be required on governance. In terms of proposed infrastructure priorities, some of the items would be downtown exchange improvements, bus stop infrastructure improvements, as well as an all ages and abilities connection between 24th Avenue North and the college. Some considerations prior to implementing the proposed network would be confirming the fleet, installing on-demand technology, completing bus stop changes, developing a change management plan, and launching a marketing campaign. In terms of performance monitoring, ridership would be expected to decline initially should the proposed redesign be implemented, which is a normal outcome of any significant transit route redesign. And then the performance of the transit system is monitored annually, and service improvements will be integrated into the 3-year transit improvement process, which is updated annually. And prior to any implementation of service changes, BC Transit would work with the city staff to ensure service improvements appropriately reflect local needs. So in terms of next steps, Cranbrook Council endorsement would have to happen of the conventional and custom 2026 Cranbrook Transit Future Service Plans. And Council may also wish to direct administration to work with BC Transit to implement the conventional Transit Future Service Plans service hour neutral network redesign, targeting service launch in summer 2027 at the earliest. Thank you so much.
And thank you for your presentation. Can I get a motion that council receive the conventional public engagement phase 2 summary report and the custom transit public engagement phase 2 summary report? Councilor Bissett, Councilor Stetsky. Discussion. Councilor Bissett.
Are we able to ask BC Transit any questions? So what I was wondering about is right now services generally about once every hour, but on Route A, how frequent would would people be able to take, like at what interval would people be able to access the transit system?
Through the chair, thank you for that question. At busier times of day, so higher peak ridership times of day, the frequency would look like about 30 minutes. And then at less busy times of day, Route A would be operating at a roughly 60-minute frequency.
Councilor Stetsky and Councilor Papa.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And we did spend a considerable amount of time on this at a special meeting of council, so we're fairly familiar with it. But one of the people that lives across the tracks in the mobile home park above the graveyard did ask me at one point a few years ago, what about service for us? And so under the new proposal, if you're living in a mobile home park up above the graveyard in Cranbrook and you need transportation, how does it work? How would it work? 'Cause that's part of your on-demand area, I think.
Thank you very much. Maybe I will turn it over to my colleague Kevin Sturgeon to answer that question.
Jen, before they start, can I just get you to stop sharing your
Yes.
screen?
You know, and I know my colleagues are saying, stop sharing your screen. And I'm trying to figure out how. And I see that there is an option and it's not really letting me click it. So apologies for that. Oh, there it is.
We're not regular users of WebEx.
No.
You got it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that.
Got you there.
So in terms of using on demand, if somebody is looking for a ride anywhere in that zone, they would have two options. One is to use an app on their smartphone. The other is to use a regular phone number. If they use a phone number, what they're actually doing is getting somebody on the other end to use the app for them. So ultimately, all the requests for service come through the app. The app will tell them when to expect the bus. It could be 5 minutes away or 25 minutes away, or generally in that range, and when they should expect to arrive at their destination. And they can be going anywhere in that zone that was shown on the map. In some cases, they would connect to another route, or if they are starting from and ending somewhere where there is the fixed route and the bus is coming soon, then the system would direct them to use the regular fixed route. For the people in the mobile home park north of the tracks, they don't have or wouldn't have any fixed route, so the on-demand service would always come and pick them up and take them where they want to go.
Thank you. And so when they want to go home again, can you pre-book a time and let transit know, or do you have to then go on the app or the phone again to get picked up to get taken back home?
Through the chair, the app does not support pre-booking, so they would have to book again when they're ready to go home.
Thank you. We've got Councillor Popoff.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. On page 16 of your report under engagement phase 2, you're quoting 54% of the survey respondents who currently use transit would like the airport to be a service priority. I'm just wondering, what's the logistics? How does that work? We have Manager Tristan here from the airport. Staff start at all different times of day and night. Staff go home at all different times of day and night after midnight. The WestJet flight comes in, 12:45 a.m. something. And then how does that work for regular accommodating staff and the flying public when it's of all hours, day and night, with maybe small 2 or 3 people catching transit? And that's my first question.
Maybe I'll answer that one on behalf of my colleagues at BC Transit with, through the chair, explanation of how airport services works in the general case as opposed to just specifically to Cranbrook. But you're correct to point out some of the challenges. Airports are very difficult to serve with infrequent transit. Specifically, airport travelers are very difficult to serve. Often successful airport services are based on the staff of the airport, but then that can also be challenging with the hours that they sometimes work. So we know that any service to an airport comes with a lot of challenge, and it's also quite expensive given the distance. And so with the recommendation in this plan would be to start with 6 round trips a day, which comes with a cost of about 3,100 hours. we measure in hours. The current cost of an hour is north of $100. So that's the rough magnitude of the cost for a very limited service. And we would expect that the airport on its own would not carry a lot of airplane passengers. We would hope to carry more staff, and it illustrates the need to make a partnership out of it and hopefully have some more stops along the way so that we wouldn't rely entirely on the airport to generate ridership for that service.
Thank you. And just one more. So would this be your standard transit fare, or would this be an add-on, more expensive trip to the airport pickup or delivery?
Through the chair, there'd be a few options there, and that's one of the reasons the plan mentions the need to undertake a review of the governance. So right now, there is a different fare, for example, to go to Kimberley. So there could be a different fare, there could be a different governance structure to go to the airport. If it serves jurisdictions outside of the city of Cranbrook on the way there and back, then that may be a discussion that needs to happen cooperatively between those different stakeholders. On the other hand, there is something to be said about simplicity and letting people use transfers and day passes to get where they need to go. We didn't attempt to answer those questions in this report. We simply point out that these are some of the challenges that would need to be resolved through reviewing governance and the service characteristics of that type of service in the future.
All right, thank you. Well, good luck with that. I have had to give people rides back into Cranbrook on that WestJet 12:45 a.m. flight because they just arrived there and think, well, I'm going to get a cab or something, and there's nothing there. So if you can make this happen and save some of these people that are stranded at the airport, that would be welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Popov. Anything further? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Can I get a motion that council adopt the 2026 Transit Future Service Plan Conventional Service and the 2026 Cranbrook Transit Future Service Plan Custom Transit Service? Mover, please, Councillor Stetsky. Councillor Blissett. Discussion. Councillor Ray.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick item to mention, and we chatted about this at our committee of the whole. One of the items identified for infrastructure priorities for 2026 and onwards is a permanent operator washroom at the downtown exchange. So I'd just like to highlight again that I think we have an opportunity there for some synergy. If we could perhaps consider Portland Loo, which is a stainless steel washroom, which the city of Nelson has instituted. So that could serve both, of course, the operators, but also the general public. And these are, as I say, stainless steel, resistant to vandalism, and easy to clean. So just wanted to flag that for those future plans.
Thank you. Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Can I get a motion that council direct administration to work with BC Transit to implement the Transit Future Service Plan Service Hour Neutral Network redesign, targeting service launch in September 2027? Councillor Ray, Councillor Popov. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Danica, thank you so much to you and your team. This has been an awful lot of work. Certainly, you know, several years ago, it was a frustration of a number of members of council. We didn't see much change. A lot of concerns over the last 2 years. I am super impressed with what you brought forward, and I recognize that this is a living document, a working document. You know, we've identified some challenges here tonight, and certainly, you know, the size of our community impacts that. You know, our geographical layout will impact that. But as we move forward, I'm sure that we will find solutions to some of those as well. A special thank you to Tina Bobbin, who has been relentless on this on behalf of the city. So thank you all.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Next item, corporate services regarding grant opportunities for solar panel installation at the new childcare facility. And we have Tina again?
Mhm.
Tina,
The design and orientation of the roof of the childcare center was flagged as a potential good value-added opportunity for this project. The technical specifications of a solar system was ran against the 50% drawings to review the validity of how these solars might actually perform if they were to be installed. Not only did the preliminary results show a favorable likelihood of being able to fully power the childcare center, but there is the potential that they will produce more energy than what they will actually be needed. Any leftover power generated can be redirected to the Western Financial Place to help reduce that building's energy footprint and electricity costs. With this information, the project team factored into the drawings the additional load that the trusses, assemblies, and walls would be needing for the addition of solar panels. With the updated drawings, Falcon Engineering conducted an energy model that is required for the building permit. It was noted that this building will likely use 39% less energy than the code's reference building values. This is partly the case because of the improved wall and roof assemblies, as described above, with other contributing factors being the ventilation being controlled and the mechanical and lighting systems being more efficient. This funding request is to add the actual solar panels to the project paid through grants and the Community Works Reserve, which this initiative meets the criteria for utilizing those funds.
thank you, Tina. Can I get a motion that council authorize a new capital project to add a rooftop solar PV system valued at $250,000 to the daycare facility, contingent on securing $120,000 in grant funding, and further, the council authorize staff to apply for grant funding to secure $120,000 for rooftop solar PV system, and further, that council authorize funding the balance of the project $130,000 from the Community Works Reserve. Councilor Bissett, Councilor Ray, discussion, Councilor Bissett.
Yay. It has been a long time coming. I mean, we have talked about having solar panels at Western Financial Place for many, many years. And we're told, you know, in many ways that it wasn't going to work. And it's so good to hear this finally. It just shows you it's good to stick around for a while. Some things do come. Thank you.
Councilor Stetson.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Absolutely want to reflect those comments. Long time coming, a major step forward. Really happy to see it. Quick question for our CAO. I see there's machinery on site ready to dig. When do you anticipate the project getting started?
Yeah, I think the latest start date will be next Monday. They're just doing the site prep right now.
Councilor Papa.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So Tina, when you're talking about the costs, does that also, I don't know, what are the operating and maintenance costs with solar panels on our roof, but are those costs, operation and maintenance built into the numbers you have here?
Those are just for the installation and
Yes.
the panels. The operation and maintenance costs, there is no moving parts on these panels. So basically the maintenance would be done by our Public Works team. And that would involve basically just checking the bolts.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah.
Further, I have a question, just a comment, Tina. What was the total cost of the project, the daycare project? How many million?
Without this, 13.5 million.
How much?
13.5.
13.5, okay, yeah. I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. I just want to make a note. I asked Tina for that for a reason. That was 13.5 million. That was 100% funded from the provincial government. So, you know, there's been kind of suggested that City of Cranbrook has not been advocating for grants. And this is another example where the province stepped up. It wasn't the city's responsibility to provide daycare. It perhaps should have been through Ministry of Education and Childcare. However, they weren't in a position to move forward at the time. The city took this on, recognizing that if we were going to attract professionals into town, we had a couple of issues. Number one was housing, and number two was daycare. Those are the top two concerns of professionals that were coming to Cranbrook. The housing problem is taking care of itself now over the last 2 years. And certainly this is going to make a difference. There will be a number, I'm assuming, of these units that will be made available or put aside for professionals in the healthcare field that would be coming to Cranbrook. So I say this because Tina took this on back when there was no hope of us seeing daycare, and we were working on it. I believe there was several times that most people would have said, yeah, well, you know what, here's the response. Tina, you hung in there, so thank you again on this one. You were so diligent. This wouldn't have happened if you weren't so tenacious, so thank you very much. Next item is from Finance regarding fire alarm upgrade at Canadian Rockies International Airport. And will you please have staff give us a brief overview of this? We got Honor or yeah.
Thank you, Mayor Price and Council. I will introduce the report, and Tristan is here to answer questions if Council has any after the introduction to the report. So the report is asking Council to authorize increasing the budget to the fire alarm panel and software upgrade project from $75,000 to $150,000, funded from the Airport Capital Reserve. The increase is required due to contractor costs associated with cable runs through the terminal building. Access is difficult and estimates received during the project planning were significantly lower than turns out is required. That's it.
Thank you, Charlotte. I'm going to get a motion that council authorize increase in the budget for project AIR 0078 fire alarm panel and software upgrade from $75,000 to $150,000, funded from the Airport Capital Reserve. Mover, please, Councillor Graham, Councillor Popoff. Discussion, Councillor Petsky, then Councillor Popoff.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just a quick question. So this is just the main building itself?
Mayor Price, through you to Councillor Stetsky. This project is strictly relating to the main terminal building. It's all of the access points of the primary security line. So all of the fob units across all of the doors that access airside, as well as the runs that are the challenge are getting back to the IT control room, the sub-level of the airport, and then up through the roof. But I'll wait for more questions. But to answer your question, yes, this is the main terminal building.
And this would take into account the proposed expansion as well?
Mayor Price, through you to Councillor Stetsky, and confirming that as the case, yes. And especially because the expansion project is utilizing our existing footprint and for efficiency using the existing 3 access doors. They're actually, whether the expansion happened or not, the project would look identical either way.
Thank you. Councillor Papa.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just clarification for the public, the $150,000 cost for the alarm upgrade is coming out of the Airport Capital Reserve, and that is totally separate from city reserves and city taxes and everything else. So this is the airport self-funded, and it's not a city taxpayer cost.
Mayor Price, through you to Councillor Popoff. Thank you for that clarification, Councillor Popoff, and absolutely that is the case. The Airport Capital Reserve with this modification is still sitting at well over $1 million in the capital reserve. The initial project in its scope, we did have the best we could find locally to come and do an estimate for us to base our project planning. But the amount of hours then invested in actually crawling through the building and through the ceiling spaces are what revealed the additional challenges that weren't foreseen. That being said, this ask for this increase does now give us more than a 25% contingency, which is unusual, but the way this project has occurred to date, we're wanting to have that. But as of just today, we did receive our 3rd quote for this cabling work, which is significantly less than the previous quotes. So a very positive indication. So I'm quite confident that the variance won't be as great as it looks right now. This is worst case scenario planning.
Thank you. Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you, Charlotte and Tristan. Next up, engineering development services regarding development variance permit 309.20.2612 for zoning bylaw parking and loading requirements for lot 4 at Wildstone. Can I please have staff give us an overview of this, please? Connor.
Thank you, Mayor Price, Council. So this is the location of this site is in Wildstone, Lot 4. There's new medium to high density residential development going in that area that we had seen come through some time ago. The plans for phase 2, the development permit was issued. This is now into building. And then once we saw the civil plans, there's a part of the internal roadway that connects the two phase 1 and phase 2, which if you remember, there's 2 apartment buildings on each phase. So this roadway connects the 2 of them, and it's built over top of a FortisBC gas line. They would also be running utilities underneath it, so it makes it a little bit difficult to meet our grading that's outlined in the zoning bylaw. So this is under the parking and loading requirements for the zoning bylaw, which makes it a variable. We're able to vary it as long as council can consider it. So this would be moving from an 8% to a 12.5% grade. Staff don't have concerns. Generally, when we're going up to 12.5% is the max grade we would go and support. Beyond that, it's difficult for the fire trucks to maneuver. We haven't received any input yet from the fire department for their trucks being able to access this, but we're asking that council authorize staff to at least send the notice of intent for the variance for this.
Thank you, Connor. Can I get a motion that council authorize the notice of intent regarding development variant permit 3090.20.2612 to adjacent property owners and occupiers within 30.48 meters of the subject property? Mover, please. Councillor Ray, Councillor Bissett. Discussion. I've got a quick question. Connor, looking at it, it doesn't look like there's much for other options anyways. This is pretty well the only option they've got there, is it?
Mayor Price, yes, there might be options for adjusting the top of the hill, but it's pretty restricted in how much they're able to do just based on the location of the Fortis gas line right now.
Great, thank you. Councillor Stetsky.
Thank you, Larry. And just to be clear, this doesn't become a city responsibility. The approval has to come from the city, but ongoing maintenance is not ours.
Councillor Stetsky through Mayor Price, you're correct. This is fully internal roadway, another private road in their development. But yes, they do have to meet our zoning bylaws, so we're just considering this for variance for a steeper grade.
Thank you. Further? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thanks, Connor. The next item is also from Engineering Development Services regarding development variance permit 3090.20.2613 at 4201 Echofield Road. Can I have staff give us a overview of this? Rob? Can I have? Oh, Connor again. Yeah. It's all yours, Connor.
Thanks, Mayor Price. Council, this is another variance that's up for consideration. This applicant is located at 4201 Echofield Road. This is the Kootenay Wood Preservers, rather large parcel just off Echofield Road. What they're looking to do is reduce the off-site upgrades that are required to be undertaken under the subdivision development servicing bylaw. for the newly proposed construction of new accessory structures that would be used for scale and mill automation with the existing business. So they would be looking to go from service level 1 to service level 2, and then be looking to waive the requirement to extend the community water systems, provided the applicable conditions are met, which would be not connecting to the new buildings aren't going to increase the water usage that's on site, so no plumbing. If you remember back there was a neighboring property there over at 4301. This site also went through the same variance process to waive the connection to water and sewer as well as service level. Something to consider in this one is we also need to hear from the fire department, just because we have fire hydrants are located along Many Road, but this is quite a large parcel, so it extends quite a ways up Echo Field Road. There's water services coming in from either side. However, the side that they would be building on doesn't have the fire flow capacity for it. Currently, it's got a smaller line to deal with. So we would be looking to meet with the fire department to have further input on what they think about waiving the water service. Again, this is just that council authorize the notice of intent regarding the development variance permit.
Thank you. Can I get a motion that council authorize the notice of intent regarding development variance permit number 3090.20.2613 to adjacent property owners and occupiers within 30.48 meters of the subject properties? Mover, please, Councillor Blissett. Councillor Popoff. Discussion. Councillor Popoff.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Wouldn't it be prudent to hear what the fire department has to say first before we start alerting the folks out in the neighborhood and getting them all excited if there's issues that the fire department raise?
Councillor Popoff through Mayor Price. Yeah, it would be nice to hear what the fire department has to say. Prior to this coming forwards, they had been looking at the application, but there was a little bit of delay with just time off with staff and that sort of thing, so we weren't able to get that. However, if we do have some time before we would have to send out the notice, before this would have to come back to council. If there's not a special meeting in August and it is September 21st, then we've got time to talk and get the fire department's views.
Thank you. Further, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Next item. Engineering developer services regarding development variance permit number 3090.20.2614 for zoning and subdivision and development standards at 2360 Kootenay Street North. We've got Rob here to speak to this one. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So a little bit of sharing of duty with all these applications. This application is being brought forward for consideration of the notice of intent for a requested variance to waive two bylaws, that being the zoning bylaw and then a subdivision development servicing bylaw for a proposed apartment building project on Kootenay Street. You probably remember seeing a version of this before a few years ago. Since that time, the DPs have expired, things have changed. The first building went up on 4th Street. They've now revised their plans, somewhat scaled it down in terms of overall number of units, no underground parking and such for various reasons. However, as part of this request, they are seeking a similar request since the other project is no longer viable, in that they're requesting to reduce the off-street parking stall spaces from 2 per dwelling unit to 1.45, which basically equates to 106 to 76. And then reducing what would be considered the exterior side yard setback from 9 meters to 2.1 meters. And that's the property line abutting the unconstructed road right of way, being 24th Avenue North. So many people realize it or think it's the green space, between between the apartment buildings and such. But it's actually a road right of way. It's a dedicated road right, but it does have a number of utilities through it, including the high pressure gas main. So from a variance perspective, you know, there isn't a whole lot of concern being closer to the property line, given that that road is not in the books anytime in the future to be constructed. And then, of course, because properties developing adjacent to public road right of ways do have to do offsite improvements, this variance would be requesting to vary the offsite improvements to basically build curb, gutter, sidewalk on a road that doesn't exist. Similar to the previous application, this is to send out notice to the adjacent property owners and occupiers within that 30.48 meter bylaw requirement before it comes back to council for a decision at the next meeting.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to council authorize a notice of intent regarding development permit number 3090.20.2614 to adjacent property owners and occupiers within 30.48 meters of the subject property? Councillor Ray, Councillor Graham, discussion. Councillor Stetsky, Councillor Graham.
Thank you, Mayor. So if in the future the city decides to actually make 24th Avenue a through street, what are the implications of this decision on that, on making it a through street, if any?
Through the mayor to Councillor Stetsky and all of council. I mean, essentially, if the road were to be built, there would be a shorter site setback distance from the property line to the building. However, typically there would likely be boulevard, sidewalk, so it would actually be probably a significant distance from the asphalt, I would imagine. But that's really about the only issue. There is one small technical issue on the plans regarding a hydro box, but that's an operational matter. But staff didn't see any concern, just because I think in discussion with engineering, it's not on the books to ever be constructed that we're aware of, unless obviously plans change. But
Thank you. But so theoretically, though, it wouldn't limit that happening should the city decide to proceed with it in the future.
Through the mayor, correct. We staff didn't see any concern with the setback distance from the property line, even if the road was to be built.
Thank you. Councillor Graham.
Yeah, thank you. Just a quick question then. So moving this forward, they're ready to build on to the next one, or is this just another, it may or may not happen?
Through the mayor to Councillor Graham, I mean, there's no guarantees. Certainly, the intent in speaking with the applicants is that they'd like to move forward with the revised development permit, or I guess it's a new development permit application, which is currently under review by staff and myself, and get this variance going here so that they can continue to work on their drawing set for building permit submission. You know, in previous discussions, sort of off the cuff, the discussion was that they would like to move to a second project when the first one is finished. Of course, there's lots of factors that'll determine that, including market uptake and et cetera, et cetera. But it's my understanding there is an intent to move on to this project once the current building is complete. So
thanks,
I
Rob.
will see
Anything
it.
further, council? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? That carried. Thank you. Next item is from Engineering Development Services, either Covenant G19719 at 217 Slater Road, former Industrial Equipment Company Limited. We have staff on hand to give us an overview of the report. Connor?
Thank you, Mayor Price, Council. So we received a development permit application for an enclosed self-storage facility proposed at 217 Slater Road, which is just across from the Trackside Mall. The lot currently is vacant, primarily used as a gravel parking lot, brownfield essentially. The applicant's been granted owner authorization to explore permitting with this site. The applicant has requested that the city release Covenant G19719 in favor of the city. This covenant was registered in 1973. It provides restrictions that are now mostly covered in the city's zoning bylaw. There's one restriction that is not covered in the zoning bylaw, which is the requirement for the building that would be placed on site to be placed on a permanent foundation, concrete foundation or pier type foundation that has a 25-year expectancy. So it's asking for a permanent structure to be constructed there. The one other that's in the covenant is where anything that would be stored outside for the equipment associated with the previous owner would have to be on the interior side yard, so not facing the residential. The location of this parcel is not directly abutting, but in proximity to a residential area. So the covenant is just in favor of the city to limit the site's intensity of industrial usage, which is now largely done through our own zoning bylaw. So there's some redundancies with it there. So we're recommending that council approve the release of the covenant from title.
Thanks, Connor. Can I get a motion that council approve the release of covenant G 19719 from 217 Slater Road, and that council authorize mayor and chief administrative officer to sign the land titles form C release of covenant. Mover, please. Councillor Stetsky, Councillor Blissett, discussion. I got a question here. I guess, so the covenant basically, there was a covenant on there that, if they're to build on there, it's going to be at a concrete foundation. So we're removing that so they can put basically container storage on there, correct?
Mayor Price, that's correct. It would be a self-storage facility on the site.
Personally, I'm opposed to that. I don't think that's great use of industrial land. You look at the tax revenues, and I don't know what the difference would be between something on a foundation, something off, that their containers are placed on blocks. There is minimal at best tax returns on anything that's going to be containerized. I'm looking at it from a tax advantage to the community.
Mayor Price, the applicant is just stating that for taxation purposes, a building, whether it's on a foundation or not on a foundation, it wouldn't change the taxation purpose or taxation amount. As for my interpretation, it would be BC assessment value that would play into that, as well as the type of zone. So one thing that I recognize the concern there, and staff is looking at exploring more appropriate areas for dry storage, dry industrial uses, and in particular for types of zones. And this might not represent the highest and best use, but it is currently a permitted use within the zone. So we do have to look at it that way as well. And whether it's the best, we can't say it's
So we
just.
gotta live with the current.
But
okay.
thank you for bringing that up.
Councillor Popov.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just to pick up on that, our CFO, do you agree with what the property owner just said about property tax not being any different?
Councillor Popoff, through the mayor, I can't say definitively because I would need to know more information about what is being put on the property, but I'm going to step out here, but putting a C-can on the property is not an improvement. Okay.
Thank you, but it
But,
could be.
but like a shed or something that's a constructed improvement would have an assessed value. But I'd need to know more about what exactly is being planned.
We don't know what that is at this point. And the other point, Mr. Mayor, is tax implications, one issue, but also there's no workforce there. It's strictly self-use, go and open the lock, do it and come in. We have so many of those in our community. So it's not creating employment in our community as opposed to having a more commercial industrial center with people power. So I need more information on this before I support it. Thank you.
Councillor Bissett?
Well, thank you. Maybe if you could clarify, this is a permitted use though on the zone on this piece of land.
Thank you, Councillor Popoff and Councillor Blissett through the mayor. Yes, this is a permitted use on the land. So if we were exploring what types of uses can and can't be, then we should look at that through our zoning bylaw and our zoning bylaw update that would be coming through. Very generally, to answer your question, yes. I can also just clarify a little bit of what would be going on the land. So this would be fully building code compliant, not just CCANs, they would be building code compliant storage units that would be placed on either an asphalt or a concrete foundation. The use of the site, perhaps for this use as a clean industrial use beside the residential properties, would be, should the property sell, would then make the land a little bit cheaper to be able to clear and prepare for potentially a higher use in the future. Generally, what we do see with dry storage facilities is they do stay around for a long time as well. But to your question, the use is permitted.
Councillor Ray?
Thank you, Mayor. So in the staff report, the team noted this concern that the use may not reflect the highest and best use for a fully serviced site in the clean industrial zone M1. So although you noted that concern, the recommendation is to approve. So can you just touch on your rationale for that? And it may be what you've already touched on, that the use is permitted, et cetera, but if you could just give us the Coles Notes version on that.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Ray through Mayor Price. I wanted to note that because we are looking to move towards a more effective specific zone for dry industrial. This is a fully serviced lot, fully capable of handling water and sewer services, as well as drainage to the site. So this isn't the highest and best use of this site. It's a dry storage, doesn't make use of those services that are provided. It is still a permitted use. The rationale behind that statement was to give council a little bit more detail as to what to consider on this site. So I kind of wanted to leave that in the mix as well. Yeah.
And then just a quick follow-up. So the report also notes that the lot is currently vacant and primarily being used to park and store vehicles. So based on that current usage, what kind of tax revenue are we looking at for the current usage?
I couldn't, Councillor Ray through the mayor, I couldn't speak to the exact amount but you would just be going off of the land value, I think, for that taxation. And if I could defer to Rob as well, I think he had maybe a couple of answers as well.
Thank you, Mayor Council. So just a couple quick thoughts. I think part of the rationale that we had provided here for the recommendation is because this covenant is older than me, and it was a way to provide form and character for development at a time back in the day. Materially putting these storage buildings on a concrete foundation versus a concrete pad or an asphalt pad doesn't really make much difference. really, when that's what it comes down to. They still have to comply with code. So whatever's underneath them is going to have to be compliant with BC building code. These types of covenants were put in back then to kind of control or regulate development. And I suspect, given that it's in the name of the city, perhaps the city might have had an interest in the land at one point. We've seen these lots before. So, and given that the use is compliant with the zoning bylaw, that's why it is recommended the way it is. I just wanted to touch on the use issue that certainly, we've discussed the use and uses like this with respect to the zoning bylaw review. I mean, that's currently underway. It is taking a little bit longer given the amount of other applications we're seeing these days. But certainly if there was a desire for council for us to move something like this sooner, we could, council could provide that direction and we would just address this one as a one-off issue rather than waiting for the entire zoning bylaw to be completed. Just to put out there that if that's something that council wanted to look at, I don't necessarily think it would materially make any difference to this application, but it is an option there that that council could direct staff to review the uses in advance of the zoning bylaw review, if that's the way we wanted to go.
And just one final quick follow-up with the CFO, please. So I saw you nodding. So if we compared the tax revenue from the current use of being a vacant lot used to park and store vehicles versus the proposed use, is there an increase in staff revenue or in tax revenue if this proposed use were to go through?
Very much so.
Oh, sorry, to the CFO.
CFO.
Osborne. I'm sorry. I apologize. Yeah, our CFO.
Thank you, Councillor Ray. So the change in the zoning is unlikely to have any impact on the assessed value. It would be the addition of what BC Assessment considers improvements. The land is currently assessed at $228,000. So that would be likely what it would be, and then fluctuating with market conditions unless there were improvements added.
Thanks, Charlotte. Councillor Graham?
Yeah, thank you. I think this is definitely something that we need to look at changing and updating in our zoning, because I do not like to see mini storage and dry storage eating up some of our prime industrial areas for this. But also, I don't want to handcuff somebody because of an old covenant and anybody else can do it at this current point. So though at first blush, I was opposed to it, but being that it is zoned for it and say the neighbor could do it, I think it's prudent to support this.
Councillor Papa.
Thank you, and good comments around the table. The reason the covenant was there to take a properly fully serviced commercial industrial piece of land, which the surrounding properties are also functional serviced commercial industrial properties. And that's why the covenant was there, so that the developer, the owner, builds something on site that fits in with the other commercial industrial settings with workforce and everything else. And you want us to, and your recommendation is not the highest and best use, but it's okay because of the zoning. We should consider allowing storage on a site that has no workforce, low tax base and everything. So I think it was a good idea to have the covenant in place in the first place. And sorry, Mr. Owner, but I'll be voting against this.
Can I speak about?
No.
Regarding tax?
No. I appreciate that the owner is in this position, but that's probably the reason that the covenant was put on there. There was a reason for it. Recognizing that the bylaw had provision to maybe have this type of use on there. So there was a covenant put on there to ensure that there was foundation, et cetera, put on there. So the best value of the land. I just, I have difficulty with this. It's in an ideal location. It's a great location. I think there's value in that in the land. And, not to be critical of a previous council, because they probably didn't have any decision. There's no covenant on the land at the time, but we've got a pretty primo piece of property down on Theater Road that could have been, spectacular commercial or industrial development down there that is basically storage facility. That was So we bring in a little bit of revenue there. There's no jobs, you know, and then, you know, nothing's on a foundation there. So, you know, I feel badly for the owner, but to me, sooner or later, we have to draw a line and say, yeah, because we made mistakes in the past, do we continue making them? So I'm going to be opposed to it. I'll call a question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Councillor Popoff and Mayor are opposed. Thanks, Bradley. The next item is also from Engineering Development Services regarding DCC policy direction for change of use. Can I have staff provide an overview of this, please? Curtis on hand? I'm really going through a lineup tonight.
We've got everybody here today, Mayor. We're so excited. We just don't want the summer break to start here. Yeah, so we've got this report that we've brought forward, and Curtis is here to speak to any of the details if we do get into it. Essentially, as a part of the DCC update process, we're going to be moving forward with some updated policy and procedure information. The outgoing DCC bylaw was just that, a bylaw, and it did lack a lot of specifics when it comes to policies and procedures and direction. And we heard a lot of that, you know, through working with the development community and through a lot of our engagement work that we've done as far as looking at best practices on how to implement one of these bylaws. So the current practice has been to charge DCCs when there's a project that initiates a simple change of use. And when we're talking about change of use, that would be, you know, different uses that would still fall within a zone. So that would be something like going from a retail to an office use, but still what would be in like a downtown core commercial zone or something along those lines. As a part of the updated draft policy and procedure, which is attached to this report, staff are recommending that we don't use that practice anymore, and that we simply would charge the DCCs if there's a change in use that's related to zoning, because zoning it more directly would impact you know, the intensity of the use on the site. Going from a residential to a commercial or commercial to an industrial, something that more directly is going to have impact on the services that the DCC bylaw is intended to charge. So that has been essentially the practice that we've had to date. We intended to update with the new policy and procedure. It's taking some time to get the DCC bylaw approved by the province. We're seeing a lot of project applications coming through right now that are facing this this existing practice. So what we're doing is seeking council direction to essentially use the draft policy and procedure as guidance, and then the council direction through this report and through this recommendation would essentially stand as interim policy direction for staff to no longer charge for the simple change of use, but only go through the zoning bylaw or zoning change perspective.
Thanks, Mayor. Can I get a motion that council direct staff to restrict DCC charges related to the change of use to only apply to changes in zoning as per the draft DCC policy? Mover, please, Councillor Ray, Councillor Bassett. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Thanks, Mike. Final item on tonight's new business is from the CEO's office regarding the land donation request from the Cranbrook Kimberley Hospice Society. Can I please have staff give a brief overview of the report, please? We have CEO Mark Virtual.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. So yes, just on July 13th at the regular council meeting, council received the correspondence officially from Cranbrook Kimberley Hospice Society on the request for a land donation, and directed staff to prepare a report for council's consideration with community inputs, potential land options, and values for each site, including potential future tax revenues. So that's the report that's been assembled and you see in front of you. But also, after that direction was given, the group asked to present tonight. And so council did see that presentation tonight in advance of this report. So the report is not reflective of that presentation or any direction since. So just taking into account that presentation, I just wanted to make a couple notes. One is the group on a number of occasions referred to it as the Baker Park Hospice Project. And just for clarity, the project is proposed to be in the Baker RV Campground, which is not Baker Park. Baker Park is shown in the map. It's green, it's protected land. Their proposal is not in Baker Park. It's the Baker RV Campground, and that is not parkland. So in following council's direction from the last meeting, we've put together a list of sites that we could go out for consultation on. The report has those. So the sites are the Frostlands, Highlands property, the Baker RV Campground, a parcel of land we own in Slaterville, the Quad South parking area, and then any other choices by council. And then also some of the discussion was on a donation equivalent to one of those parcels of land. So that's why the land values are also calculated on some of the sites, just for examples, and as is the potential tax revenue. So the way I've structured the recommendations is just based on the original direction. And as I said, it might not be reflective of where council wants to go tonight, but we can leave that open. But the recommendations are laid out in 1, 2, and 3 as set out in the report.
So the report is requesting a decision from council from the CAO. There are 3 potential motions for consideration. The first option is to direct staff to begin public consultation on a list of potential land donation options, which currently include 5 potential properties and could be expanded based on council's direction. The second option is to approve a specific donation of funds for the purchase of private property for the new hospice house. The third option is to direct staff to undertake public consultation and advise the society that there is no land available for donation at this time. Can I get a mover for option?
Sorry, option 1.
Option 1. Councillor Bissett. Seconder, Councillor Ray. So option 1 states that council directs staff to begin public consultations on the following land donations options. A, Frost property located at 500 16th Avenue South. B, Highlands lot located at 600 30th Avenue South. C, portion of Baker RV Campground located at 1501 First Street South. D, Slaterville property located at 600 5th Street Northwest. E, Kinsman Quad Ballpark Field South parking lot area located at 1700 Willowbrook Drive. If there's any other properties that anybody can think of, you could add to it. Okay, so we have that motion. Okay, now we're open to discussion. Councillor Popoff.
Yes, thank you. D and E, Slaterville and Kinsman Quad, those are so far removed from the hospital and maybe other challenging environments. I would suggest we omit those and concentrate just on A, B, and C.
Councillor Bissett.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate the presentation we had earlier tonight. And I think most citizens would be in full agreement on the necessity and of having a hospice in Cranbrook, and that Cranbrook is the right location with the regional hospital here. Now, where in the city, we're limited to the amount of public land that we have available. And as was pointed out in the presentation, location, 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 because this is long-term. And so I do think when it comes to donating public land, particularly parkland, that is some of which is highly valued in the city. Some of these properties are not, I would think, many people wouldn't even realize that they were pieces of public land. Whereas Baker Park, I think most people are aware that that area is public land. And so I think it is prudent for us to get public input on this and to look at the pros and cons of each location. And certainly a number of them do provide, accessibility for people coming from out of town. There will be public transit. We know there'll be on-demand public transit everywhere within the city, but also there are pluses and minuses to each location. So I think that has to be considered ahead of time, and that we should get public input on this.
Councillor Stetsky?
Yeah, thank you. Very important project, but one of the things we've learned over the last 3.5 years is that any city property belongs to the people of Cranbrook. And it's important that I think we involve them in the discussion in terms of which property would be the most appropriate property. I just did a quick calculation, for example, from Baker Campground to the hospital is about 2.4 kilometers. The Highlands property to the hospital is about 2.7 kilometers, 5-minute drive. There was mention made of being close to nature. Well, you're really close to the park, for example, if we're up in Highlands. But I think most importantly, we really do need to consult with the people of Cranbrook. We've seen how they feel about council making a decision without consulting them in terms of city land. So in terms of whether we do just go out with A, B, C, I can see some merit in maybe just looking at those three. The other two, I guess they can be on the list, but I don't see them as really being a very desirable option for a location. But absolutely, we do need one. And I want to see us get there, but I want to see us get there with public support.
Thank you. Councillor Ray.
Thank you, Mayor. I would agree with the comments around the table. This is a very important project, and I'd like to thank the committee and the Hospice Society for being the champions of this. And you've made, of course, significant progress to this date. So thank you very much. And as has been mentioned, with the childcare facility project, we did not have community engagement up front, and then we kind of had it in the middle, and then we landed on a good location that I think had worked for the facility and had good community support. So there's definitely lessons learned there in terms of the value of having community engagement up front. And so that's what we're looking at here. I support the survey. I would suggest let's keep the options in. Let's let the community consider. And it's an opportunity for educating the community as well about, that the city has limited public lands, and to recognize that, of course, community projects like this are very, very valuable. And at the same time, we need to have a very long-term view in terms of tax revenue for the city. So we have to balance all of those things together. So I look forward to this survey going out with our budget survey. I think that's a very fiscally responsible approach. We will already be doing a public survey. So this would just add an additional section to that. So I think that's a very good and prudent use of taxpayer funds. And then we will be able to make a more informed decision.
Thank you. Councillor Popoff, Councillor Graham.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I have a recent and personal experience with palliative care on the 3rd floor. So I speak with some experience. First off, I welcome the vision of what the Hospice Society is doing. Much needed. And without a doubt, hospice setting needs to operate here in Cranbrook. I mean, there's no question about that. From my personal experience, what I've been told is we don't care where it is, as long as it's a home-like setting, not an institutional. And for the family, there's a little bit of an indoor-outdoor relaxing area of peace and tranquility, quiet, calm, birds chirping. That's what I was told. That's direct personal experience. So I think whichever, as we're going to go through the 3 or the 5, what is the best fit for that? There's some, and what's the higher and best value for these parcels? I hope that's going to be captured as well when it goes out. And frankly, this has to be a statistically valid survey, not an opinion poll, so that we can even increase the population survey numbers, send it out to 2,000, 4,000 people in the community, and then it's a statistical valid survey, and we can get accurate, real numbers of what the public feel. What are the zoning implications of these different properties? Are they parkland? Are they institutional? What's the best use value for these properties? We're going to be asking the responder to actually think about all those pieces, and then maybe we can come to a conclusion on what the best property should be for the hospice. But without a doubt, I fully support the need for a hospice in this community. Thank you.
Councillor Graham.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think as somebody who still bears the scars of the last time Baker RV Park came up, it's definitely worthwhile to bring in the public early and get the conversation going and see where it lands. There seems to be a lot of people that have a lot of passionate attachment to that RV park. So yeah, I welcome being able to consult the public on this.
Well, from my perspective, we've been dealing with this project, I think, long enough. I think that this committee's come to us numerous times, certainly with a project that we all agree we need. It's time a decision was made, one way or the other. If we lose this project in Cranbrook, and make no mistake, this is a lasting legacy project that's going to make a difference to this community. And it's this generation here right now that's going to make the decision on that. Quite frankly, I'd rather be part of a decision that maybe gets criticized by maybe a handful of people, because anybody that's going to criticize this type of a project going into a park-like setting, I would really question how committed they are to the community and whatnot. But if we lose this, it'll be gone. And make no mistake, probably 90% of the people are going to end up in palliative care are going to spend their last days before they go in palliative care in Cranbrook Regional Hospital. That doesn't make a bit of sense to me. Location, I can guarantee you, put it in any location. And we've seen this time and time again when we have to make land use decisions. It's never the right decision for 100% of the people. So you know what? I think certainly it's coming down to us to make this decision. This group has come to us a couple of times in the past. We've had some conversations about the approach and how we're going to approach it. They came specifically asking for a parcel of land in a specific area. I think that's the decision we have to make tonight. And I think if we don't agree to that, I really think it would be a horrible shame. It'd be shameful. It would be shameful if this project leaves this community. We can carry this on, and if we're going to lose this opportunity because of, I guess, process. We want to add layers of process, which isn't required process. We're stating we want more process. That's on us. I got an issue with that. Or if we're going to lose this opportunity because of our inability or unwillingness to make a decision That's what we were voted in for. And you know what? For this council, one of the things I've been so impressed with this council, and it's been a pleasure to work with this council over the years, is this council's never been afraid to make the hard decisions, and a lot of them that weren't made in the past, okay? In spite of criticism. I think if we keep kicking this can down the road, no different than what we've done on some of the projects we have to pick up. We've talked about kicking the can down the road. That's all we're doing here tonight if we're going to do this, kicking a can down the road, because I can guarantee you, you're not going to get 100% of the people in this community voting on any one of those properties. Personally, they came asking for a piece of land. I'd just as soon see this voted down, this option 1 voted down, and the new resolution agreeing to work with them for the piece of property at Baker Park. Not Baker Park, at Baker. You know, there's so much to add. They gave us the rationale. They gave us the rationale why that is the spot. Now we're going to go and say, well, they came with the presentation, and I thought the rationale was excellent. We've got the Rotary Club that's going to be on board to put a garden in, a fantastic garden. They're going to be responsible for maintenance and upkeep going forward. So, you know, what we did as a council not long ago is we did take that, rezone all that property, but what did we do? West of the creek, we have dedicated that as park land forever, okay? So we did that. So there is parkland down there. What would we like to see in the parkland? It should be nice to see something really neat in there, a really nice feature along the creek and whatnot. We're not going to see it in the short term, I can guarantee you, with the councils, with the kind of money that council, you know, that the city has available right now. But certainly, I think that this would be very preemptive and very appropriate to have a park-like setting with a flower garden in this building. I mean, that building is a beautiful building. I think it's a start of beautifying that area. I truly do. So, you know, I sit here and look, and I'm, as you can tell, I'm sort of upset at the decision at the way we want to go. So I'll just leave it at that. That's my 2 bits worth, but I can guarantee you, and probably a lot of people here have been in this situation, and none more than some of these people in this hospice committee that are up there several times a week, you know, with people in that situation. I've been up there a number of times with people I know, and I can tell you that is absolutely no place for them. So, and the longer we delay that, the more they're going to be there. We know that that the committee has spoken to a number of potential donors and different fundraisers. They need a commitment from the city. They need to identify a piece of land so that everybody knows this is a go forward project. We're not giving them that tonight. My 2 bits worth. Councillor Papa, then Councillor Stetson.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And I'm not afraid to make the tough decisions. 12 years, 11 and a half, that's been my thing, and I'm not afraid to make tough decisions. Question to CAO. If we go through this process for the public hearing and everything, statistically valid surveys, will we still have time for this council to make the tough decisions?
So Councillor Papa, unfortunately, no. So the survey, as Councillor Ray had mentioned, the survey that we put together, we started 2 years ago now, the very robust budget question survey. So what we've done is we've formulated a survey designed for the incoming council. So it's not for this council. The incoming new council will be setting the new budget shortly after the election. So the questions are designed to support a brand new council in understanding some public sentiment around tax dollars and budgets, because they'll go literally from being elected to getting an orientation to being thrown into this chamber and say, vote on the budget. So what help might they need? So that's what the survey is designed around. a few council members mentioned, the validity of the survey. So you can open a survey app on SurveyMonkey or any website and you can get people to vote, and great. But to create and run a statistically valid survey, we use a company for that, because that's, that there's a special kind of process around statistically valid surveying of a population Cranbrook size. So that all of that, that's a very long way of saying that we've paused the budget survey, because otherwise we'd be wrapping it up and sending it on to getting it finalized to the printers and then getting it underway, because it has to run through August and into the fall, because a lot of people are away in August and we need it to run through the fall, and it takes some time to compile. So the results of that survey, if we put it into the one that we're working on with the budget, is November 23rd is the presentation to council date. Not to say that, I could approach consultants to see about the cost of running something different, separate, faster, but to make it statistically valid with the amount of time available from summer holidays when no one's around in August till October 5th, which is our last meeting with this group, I would say very difficult to do.
Thank you. So just if I may, again, I think you're right, Mr. Mayor. This council has been familiar with what's been going on. We have good information already of pros and cons of locations. If we were to, and I think we need to make the tough decision, this council, not to kick it forward to a brand new, maybe new, inexperienced council, and delay the process even further for the society. So I think if we did what you're suggesting, Mr. Mayor, we would probably circumvent the public input process, because, we wouldn't be having the hearings and all those things. Would that be correct, CAO? So if we were to make a proposal tonight, if that's the case, would it still go to some sort of public hearing if we had a rezone?
Yeah, so Mayor Price through Councillor Popoff, and I'll defer to Rob, he's still here. Because of the change of use, and the change of use is not consistent with the OCP, there would be public hearings required for the rezoning of that property of council. So if the donation of land was contingent upon rezoning, there'd be a public hearing required for that.
And should that be the case, now we're doing the what ifs, but should that be the case for any of these lands that would go to a public hearing, would we still be able to, this council still be able to make the decision? Would there be time for us to make the decision?
But by the time we did the notice of disposition and published notices, and then, because it's only 2 council meetings left.
Yes.
Really, in the fall, I'm not sure, I just really struggle to think that.
Rob, you can comment on that.
Sure, thank you. So just for a process clarity, if we're doing an OCP and zoning amendment, it would, with this scenario, given the proximity to the highway, requiring Ministry of Transportation approval before council meetings. And if the OCP designation was satisfactory, which I'm not sure, because this type of use isn't really explicit in any of our zones, old bylaws, we'd have to do some work. That would still be a minimum of at least 2 council meetings for readings. Actually, no, it would be 3 readings, public hearing, Ministry of Transportation approval, coming back for adoption. So the likelihood of it getting adopted is probably very slim to none, I think.
Thank you. So given that, what I'm hearing is either way, it's going to be not us to make the decision, but it'll be for the next council to make the decision. I think I'm still good with our motion.
Yeah. Councillor Graham, do you have a question?
No, my question was answered in the process part.
Okay. So, Councillor Steskey.
Yeah, thank you. It's along the same lines. I would like to see a decision made by this council, but it sounds like either way, it wouldn't be made by this council. I was going to ask whether there was some way to speed up the public consultation portion, but that's still following that public consultation, then there's still the amendment process after that even. Because what I've seen very consistently and what I've heard and what I feel is that this council very much supports having this located in Cranbrook. So there's no doubt about the support that council has to make this happen. The discussion was around where and how to make it happen. Again, we have had the experience and of what happens when you don't ask the public an important question about their land in Cranbrook and what should happen to it going forward. But I don't like the timing of any of this, quite frankly, because I would like to be able to have made the decision before it moves on to the next council. So, CEO Furcho, any way you can see making this happen so that we could make the decision as a council? Because we all very much support this happening.
Yeah, we're just sort of whispering, trying to think of ideas. I mean, what we've done with other processes, if you recall, like for example, the Rotary, it was, there was sort of an approval in principle to donate land, and then agent authorization was granted to go through, application processes and such. That could be a way, but it won't speed up the process, but it provides a level of direction. The only thing that hasn't been considered that, like we did with Rotary, is would there be a caveat for, building permit, like building timelines? Is this an indefinite donation, or is there a time window? Is there a buyback or a first right of refusal provision? Those are the types of things that went into the previous land donations, which obviously aren't in this original resolution. So, we could go that way. We'd be trying to do it on the fly from a process perspective, and it would be granting agent authorization and doing, but that's the formal process. That's not getting public input, right? That would be just like actually saying council, is tentatively authorizing this donation of land subject to approvals and such, but it still wouldn't necessarily happen under your watch, perhaps. I think just given the timelines, but that'd be one way to do it, I think, as an option that we just were discussing.
Thanks, Rob. Councillor Ray.
Thank you, Mayor. So I certainly appreciate the frustration on the side of the Hospice Society in terms of, wanting this to happen as quickly as possible. And I appreciate it's always hard work, of course, to be looking for, these are going to be major donations. It's a big capital project. So I really understand the stress on the side of the Hospice Society. But in terms of providing good governance, when we have these kinds of situations where we're feeling time pressures, I think we need to take a step back. I don't think the relatively short period of time to do a public engagement survey, it's probably not going to actually change shovels in the ground, realistically. So I think it's important that we take a step back and take a breath and take this time to do this public engagement. I think that's how we do good governance. And I think there have been times, even, hey, these are well-intentioned time pressures. I get that. We all have the best of intentions, lots of support around the table for this project. But we can't let time pressures, we can't sacrifice good governance because we're feeling the pressure of time. I just think good governance has to be paramount, and community engagement is part of that. The other thing I'll mention, as still the new kid on the block, almost 4 years in, because these are 12-year folks that are around the table, special case for Councillor Stetsky. I think we need to know we can pass the baton. We're all only here for a limited period of time, whether it's been 4 years or 12 years or whatever. We need to have the humility and the faith to know we can pass the baton. So we don't need to feel like we're the only people on the planet who can approve this project. We can pass the baton. What I would like us to do is let us do as much work as possible to get it as ready as possible to pass the baton. I fully support that, but we, need to have the humility to pass the baton to the next group.
Thank you. Councillor Bissett.
And further to that, to make a fully informed decision, it's best to have public input. And that's what we will be providing to the next council, so that they can make the decision based on, based on the information from the Hospice Society and looking at the best use of the land, and with buy-in from the public as well to support them in their decision making. So I really think public input is the way we have to go here.
Okay. Mark, can you help me with this? Procedurally, can a council member ask the question of a member of that group that could impact this decision?
Yeah, Mayor Price, certainly, council members are able to invite speakers. Typically, Cranbrook council meetings are business meetings of council, that unless there's a specific delegation or a public hearing. However, if council members choose to have, like we did, you had the presentation earlier, so you asked clarifying questions, that certainly would be on tonight because they are actually approved presenters tonight.
Thank you for that. So what I would ask is if a member of the group could speak to what a time delay is, how it's going to impact this project, and what kind of a timeline, I guess, you see that could kill the project. Because, it's the last thing I want to see is this project killed. So George?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, council, members of the public and staff. We put together our steering committee for the regional hospice house in the spring of 25. We've been working on this for over 2 years. We've had members of the public step forward and offer us land, which we have done our due diligence. We've checked it out with Jim Fiorentino and the drilling company. Check out 14-acre site where the old go-kart track was. We were pretty optimistic about that when we first had the opportunity, and then recognized that we had issues that were going to be involved with the environmental agencies. As we sat as a steering committee, and we have Derek Price is still here, and Al is here, and we had Cindy here earlier, and Jimmy. We started to take a look at location, and all of us have talked about that. In our fundraising, we have a number of people in the Cranbrook, Kimberley, and Elk Valley who are ready to donate their funds to us once we are able to put future home of the East Kootenai Hospice House sign on the property. A delay into next council would take us into 2027. And in talking to Derek Spring, who has a pretty good grasp on a lot of the potential fundraisers in our community, he indicated that we are losing the bloom of the onion if we don't get it very quickly. I think to expect the Hospice Society to wait into the new year, which would be another year virtually, another 12 months, we will have to decide how we're going to deal with that. From my point of view as the chair of the Hospice Society, I think that it would be my recommendation to us, if we have to wait a year for the incoming council to make a decision, we'll be looking elsewhere, quite honestly. That's as plain as I could put it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Greg, did you have a comment?
Comments. Just a couple of comments on the selected properties. Again, Georgia said we've looked at numerous properties. Some private land was offered. It didn't suit our needs because of environmental issues, et cetera. We've looked at other properties that the city has sort of put forth. The Frost property, I mean, it's an okay location, but again, it's in a residential area where, difficult to get to. And from our understanding, a big sewer pipe going right through the middle of it, which restricts where we're going to be able to build. Baker Park, actually the campsite, which is just above the creek at Baker Park, is the ideal location. Again, we mentioned it's central. Families can come and they can stay in the hotels, that sort of thing, but they can come and go, and businesses will flourish, I think, downtown, especially the flower shops. But it's in a perfect location, easy to get to, and it just provides, it checks off all the boxes. And that is primarily the number one property that we request. And it just, the other ones, in our opinion, again, in residential areas, difficult to get to, just don't make sense. And location does matter. And if you drive by 14th Avenue and you look at, Baker Park right now, and you see those buildings that look like they're ready to fall down, our project would certainly do that a big improvement and make the city look so much better with the surrounding garden and everything else. So, we're really passionate about, the project, and passionate about that property. And I just think it'll be an outstanding thing for Cranbrook to have. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Teske.
Yeah, sorry, Greg, but question for you and a question for our CAO. And I know it's always hard to predict the future, particularly around fundraising, but in terms of the steering committee and their best hopes for getting shovels in the ground, having raised enough money, what do you anticipate that could be? Or have you talked about that?
Getting the permits and everything, I think, we're going to be ready, I think, in 24 months. Honestly, I do. We've got people that have stepped forward already and said, you guys nail the property down, we're going to write a check. Brenna Hong, she's awake tonight. She's part of the East Kootenay Foundation for Health. She's committed to raise enough money for, again, 3 years operating. She's very confident that she can get a major donor, whether it be, Techmink or Jimmy Pattison or somebody, to come in and stroke a check for naming rights, put their name up on the plaque, over the building, whatever. But, and again, the power of our steering committee, the pillars of the community that have built their businesses and have done very well, have employed hundreds of people, through Ferentino Brothers, through Mike Kosnick's Fabrite operation, Derek Springs North Star. These guys know how to build a business. They know how to operate it. And I've got no problem at all thinking that we can raise money in a heartbeat, So I think 24 months and we're ready to go.
So doesn't that mean that there's a 24-month window, more or less?
Well, that's before it gets shovels in the ground, but there's a lot of work to do before then. But before we can seriously go out and campaign to raise money, we need the piece of land. And, other than that, it's just really a pipe dream. We've already got 1.2 million and lots in the pipeline. There's all kinds of people who are saying, you guys nail the property down, we'll stroke a check tomorrow. Myself being one of them.
Okay, thank you, Greg. Question for our CAO. If we tried to add a committee of the whole meeting or two, would that help move things along? Again, I think it's very clear that this council supports this project. And the only thing we're trying to figure out with public input, if we can afford the time, is where the public would like to see it go, because it is their land. But if we added, there's one in September, one in October, but if we added some meetings, might that be helpful to the process?
So just because there's two different hearings involved, like the OCP and the zoning, like there's two separate documents that need to be changed, and the OCP has to be changed prior to the zoning. And so it's like a two-step process there alone. And as Rob mentioned, there's the Ministry of Transportation has to chime in because we're within 800 meters of the highway. So it's really, I think, if I was going to say anything about this, is really, we're talking about what kind of consultation to have with the public, because the rezoning hearings have to happen any which way. Do we want to hear from the public first through a statistically valid survey, or do we just and then go through the public hearing, or do you want to hear from the public only in the public hearing, where people will come in with their opinion? So it's really what type of public consultation do you want? But whether the final decision would be able to be made by this council, unless Rob's ready to tell me that, I can't really speak for the planning department on that. It's just the window's pretty tight for that many sets of hearings with external bodies involved.
And is that process true for regardless of which property might be chosen?
On the list we have, I believe so, yes.
So recognizing what Rob brought up, I think, personally, I would like to see an approval in principle made by this council. Then they've got something to work with. And guess what? The process will play it out. I don't want you part of a group that stops something, okay? And it's going to go elsewhere. Again, this is one of those things where I appreciate good governance, but you get situations where time is of the essence and you have to make decisions on the run, so to speak. This is one of those situations. If there is a mechanism available, which it appears there is, approval in principle, we've done our job. Hopefully to the satisfaction of the people that came. And guess what? The process is going to play out, and it might be part of the process that stops it for them, but it wasn't our fault as a council that blocked it and forced them to go elsewhere. I don't want that legacy. So my thoughts right now are we vote down this option 1 and bring another motion forward to approve it in principle. That's all I've got to say. Anything further? Okay. Councilor Stetsky.
So CEO Furcho, when you hear approval in principle, what does that mean from your perspective?
So Councillor Stetsky, to the mayor, I think what I do is if this gets voted down and council looks at another alternative, I'd have to speak with the mayor a little more on the specifics around the wording. There's a few things I'll need in order to provide staff direction. But we can chat about that. We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Councillor Graham.
Yeah, thank you. I guess the one thing that I'm questioning, just listening to the mayor's comments as well as the comments from the presenters, is realistically it's the Baker RV area, or the other ones don't work. So why would we, like, I just look at it like, why go to the public on 5 or 6 locations when it's either this one or nothing? For them to work, the public gets to come back and say, oh, well, we think the Frost property, but clearly they say they don't want to be at the Frost property. It's not going to work. So now we're right back to where we are, rather than just being like, hey, Baker RV Park has been requested by the Hospice Society as the location. So why burden the public with 5 other options that aren't even relevant? Like, that's where I'm getting at, is like, okay, if this is where this is where the ideal best place is from the society, that should be the question that be talked about, or at least brought into public, because this conversation's been going on in the background for a bit. But we're a council that has been working on and providing transparency to the public. I think we owe the public a conversation on this property, that this is what we're looking at doing. Like, I think this is the piece that they're asking for. That's the piece that we consult on, because if we say, oh, well, here's Highlands, well, they don't want it, you're no further ahead.
Okay, so I guess my answer to that would be that I think we have a responsibility to answer or to address the request that came from the group tonight. They requested the Baker property. Now, if we're going to go out and throw all these options around, make no mistake, and if we said, well, we offered you the Frost property, personally, thank God that didn't go through, because we saw a little pile of dirt beside St. Mary's School that supposedly nobody knew was parkland until they found out. Then there was an uprising. Okay, for a supportive housing program that the Rotary's doing. We saw what happened there. It doesn't matter where you go, it's going to be a blowout. You're going to hear at least us saying approval in principle and let the process move forward. I think we have to address their ask. This isn't a chess game here tonight. You know, this is an ask that came forward, and we've got a responsibility to tell them yes or no. Really simple. And if the answer is no, they're going to move on. And you know what? That's our legacy. Councillor Stetsky, Councillor Popoff.
Thank you. So along that lines, if I can ask Greg or George to come back up to the mic for a minute. So what about the Highlands property? Close to the hospital, close to Idlewild Park. Have you looked seriously at the Highlands property and decided that it wouldn't work?
We looked at a number of different properties. Initially, the Highland property was not on the list. When we spoke with Mayor Price and Mark Virchow earlier, they kind of gave us a rough list, I guess. And the Frost property, a parcel of land up at the college, which we looked at. We looked at Moyer Park that was on the table. We did, all the engineering, a budget, a letter to council, and that was turned down. But Highland School, again, it's more in a residential area, kind of a further walk from downtown. Yeah, maybe a peaceful location, but I don't think it's as good a property for our purpose as Baker Park. Again, you go by Baker Park, and you see a beautiful green space down below, and that's not going to change. But above that, you've got to be perfectly blunt, a beat up old campground that would cost about 1.2 million to kind of get it to code, and maybe only make $30,000 a year. So that's not a good business decision to keep the campground there either. So you've got a beautiful setting there, potentially a beautiful setting, but right now that doesn't look very nice. Our hospice, we think, would elevate the beauty of the city, and it would again cross off all the boxes for nurses, physicians, support staff, all those people that would be working there. It's an ideal location, and we just think any other location wouldn't serve us as good a need.
And if I might foresee, sure.
Okay, we're getting close to time. We got till 9 o'clock. And certainly I've really stretched this out just due to the importance and I think potential consequences, the decision here tonight, but we'll have to move along very, very quickly here.
Yeah, Councillor Stetsky, in terms of looking at the Highland property, one of the things that we're very cognizant of is the fact that we want this to be a regional facility. And so access regionally is very, very important to us. The best property for this hospice house, the right property for this hospice house, is at the Baker Park area where the RV park is. That's the best.
Thank you. And if I might then for CEO Virchow.
We're going to move on. Councillor Ray, do you have a question?
I do. Thank you. Comment. So I believe there is value in presenting the options that are listed in the motion, which is on the table. Certainly when we communicate this to the community, absolutely, we should communicate that the Hospice Society has specifically requested the Baker RV campground for sure. But I think it's incumbent upon us to share with our residents and our constituents what all the options are. And it should actually be a compromise. There should be a sense of give and take, I believe. And so this community engagement is an important part of that. So I look forward to voting on the motion as it stands.
Okay, we've heard, final question, Councillor Statsky.
So 2 points. So CAO Furcho, if you get a motion to proceed in principle, what does that mean for you in the next steps? Secondly, all it takes is a motion of council to go beyond 9 o'clock. I've been there in the past.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table. We have option number 1. I'm going to call the question. All in favor? All opposed? The motion's carried. And 2 are opposed. Councillor Graham, Mayor Price are opposed to that option. Okay. Thank you, guys. Where am I at here? The heck did I do with that dang thing? Okay. 14. Okay, moving on to administrative updates. So we have one administrative update tonight from Public Works. Legion Cenotaph. Thanks, guys.
Good evening, Mayor Price and Council. If I may, just one quick additional update in addition to the written one that was submitted last week. The project is scheduled to start on August 10th and scheduled to be completed by September 4th.
Questions, comments? Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Short and sweet. Moving on to correspondence. We have one item of correspondence tonight from Cranbrook Minor Hockey regarding increases to ice rates. Would council like to receive for information, discuss or make a motion to refer back to staff for review with a staff report future council meeting? I think the third option. Okay, reviewed it back to staff. Thank you. Yes, Councilor Bissett.
Yes, and I do think, looking at maintaining the difference between the rates for the different arenas, because there's a major difference in the service and provided by the different arenas, and I think that should be reflected in the hourly rates.
We're good. Thanks, guys. That brings us to Mayor and Councilors reports and inquiries. Councillor Graham.
Yes, thank you. Just one thing in process of the meeting tonight. I was wondering if we could go go back to 6.6, and that is the one where we set the public hearing for that property that needs the rezoning from C1 to R1 for September 21st. I wonder if we could do that on the September 8th meeting, because we do have a special meeting and time is of the essence for these guys to try and move through the estate. Just wondering if that is possible, CAO Furcho.
So as of tonight, just do this straw poll of council with a special meeting that we had planned either August 31st or September 8th. It appears September 8th, excuse me, has won. So we could set September 8th as the date. If council would like to set September 8th as the date, then I just ask you revisit the motion and make the amendment, and then I can advise staff.
Okay.
So yeah, I would like to make a motion that we revisit the motion.
Okay, seconder? Oh, Councilor Popoff, further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you.
So I guess that now we need, I guess I can do it here. That we, whatever here, that we schedule a public hearing for bylaw 4258, 2026 for 6 PM on September the 8th, 2026.
Right. Councilor Popoff, a seconder? Yeah. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you.
And that's all I had.
Yeah, thank you. That's carried. Councilor Popoff.
Yes, thank you. Just quickly, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did share an email with us, Mark, about an announcement we received from the provincial government. BC kids will benefit from new soccer mini pitches. Up to 20 communities will be considered for this lasting legacy. Something that we could, if we did apply for and qualify, could go up at Moyer Park or somewhere else. And it looks like it's all funded through the FIFA and other sort of legacy funds. So I'm encouraging staff to take a look at it. I know we're busy, but the time might be ticking on this, and it would. And we're big soccer fans in this part of the world, so it might be good to have some of these mini soccer facilities. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Ray, nothing. Councilor Bissett, Councilor Teskey. I have one thing, and it was business. I got a request from the fire chief last week to permission to leave the area in case of a imminent danger to the city of Cranbrook. So recognizing that conditions exist in the area where a fire occurring beyond Cranbrook Fire and Emergency Service Response Area requires the support of Cranbrook Fire and Emergency Services through the interagency agreement or in order to proactively protect property within our fire protection boundary. I've exercised the authority prescribed in subsection 3.2C of the City of Cranbrook Fire Services Bylaw number 3676 at 12 p.m. on July 20th, 2026. This subsection provides the ability for Cranbrook Fire and Emergency Service to extend services beyond its jurisdictional boundary with prior approval of the mayor on behalf of council. If the mayor advises council at the next meeting of council, which I am doing tonight. Thank you. Anything further? We'll call for a motion to adjourn. Councilor Teskey, Councilor Bissett, all in favor, opposed? Thank you.